Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Cochran, Wellbeing Development Manager here at Pharmacist Support, and I'd like to welcome you to our latest Act Now Wellbeing panel chat that today will focus on the pharmacy manager's role in supporting team well-being. Joining me today to share their experiences and views are Jat Harchowal, Cheif Pharmacist at University College London Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust, and Sukhy Somal, Managing Director and Superintendent Pharmacist at PharmaCare Pharmacy. So welcome both.
Hi.
So research shows that managers play a key role when it comes to workplace well-being, with the relationship between the employee and their manager playing an important part in this, as well as in staff retention. Research by Mind has found that 56% of employers would like to do more to improve staff well-being, but they don't feel that they have the right training or guidance. And we know from our own market research that a lack of colleague and senior support on the job is one of the core issues facing the pharmacy profession today. As referenced in the Mind research findings, unfortunately, often managers feel ill-equipped to support employees through times of distress and to handle the soft skills element of the management role. We'd like to explore this subject in a little more detail today and to discuss and share examples of some of the simple things pharmacy managers can do to help develop their team and support staff well-being. So Jat, I'd like to come to you if I can to kick things off. Perhaps you could share your thoughts and reflections on this, as well as any experiences and learnings of your own on how pharmacy managers can balance their mental health and well-being needs with those of their teams.
We've just done an exercise recently where we wanted to set a new vision. We felt coming, we hope, out of a pandemic, or certainly this latest phase, and thinking ahead now for what the future might look like. We did a piece of work where we asked staff what was really important to them, what do we do well, and what do we need to do better. And it was really interesting because the overwhelming feedback was about we had to look after our staff, balancing their needs and how they feel in work, and making sure they're supported, and we have well-being champions in the workplace who can really look after how staff are feeling and come back to me as the chief pharmacist of a department that's really spread out and has almost 200 to 300 staff. So really letting me know what we need to do to always be aware of things. But you can have all the visions and all the objectives and all of the goals you'd like, but nothing as a manager can replace as a manager how you also take time to get to know your staff. I take time to visit all of those locations, if not every other day or every week, and sometimes it might be a couple of weeks, but actually going and speaking to your staff and actually getting to know your staff. Because once you get to know your staff, those days when they aren't quite 100% or they aren't quite themselves, you pick that up and you can inquire. You have that interest in their well-being, and I do, because I know how much they give to an organization and how much work and how hard people work. But actually, I also want them to feel valued. And I think if you work in a workplace, you want to feel valued, and you want to know that somebody like myself or similar leaders in any organization care about their staff. And that caring is a big part of how you should feel. You should be cared, looked after, and supported and developed, because I do think it'll give you your best.
So Sukhy, I wonder, does any of this resonate with you? And what are your thoughts on and experiences with balancing your own well-being with the needs of the rest of your team?
Routine has been the key to keeping myself in a really good place, and therefore being able to keep my team in a good place. So I have a very strict routine. I'm up at 5, I go to the gym in the morning at 6, and then I'm at work for 9 o'clock. I try and alternate that, so I get one day doing something for me, and then one day I drop the kids off. So I've hopefully managed to get that balance. When I am in work, going back to how it was through the pandemic, we do this thing in our community pharmacy called the 10 at 10. So for 10 minutes, we don't answer the phones at 10 o'clock. We have a group huddle, and especially during the pandemic, we changed our huddles from what are the objectives of the day to how are we all feeling. And for just 10 minutes, we used to go around the whole team. If nobody wants to say anything, that's fine as well. But we used to have some times where people had family members affected by COVID and they just wanted to share or just offload. But that moment of the team sharing their experiences was so valuable. And we've kept that going. So that is a daily occurrence every single day in our pharmacy. But what I've found is if you make it very clear for your team what the roles are, what the objectives are of every single person in your team, no matter what the size, you have a far more productive team. And just a few minutes every day can bring such good quality to how productive you are as a team and how close knit you are. And we'll have things like if somebody's struggling with their workload, they'll bring it up at that 10 at 10 and they'll say, well, actually I'm a bit behind on what I've got to do, can somebody help me? So it becomes the team's meeting rather than, I don't stand at the front of my team and say, right, you guys are going to do this, this and this. It's their meeting, and that's been amazing for us, and for the business. I think the other thing I would say is having regular check-ins with your staff. And between me and my deputy, once every 4 weeks, we sit down with each member of the team and we just do a little check-in session of, are you enjoying the job that you're doing? Are you happy with the job role? Is there anything you need to talk to us about? And how are you feeling in general? And just general questions of, how are you? And so often basics like that get forgotten. And we find in those conversations, things like, actually, I've been doing this, but I'm not sure I'm doing it right. Or I was a bit nervous when I started, but can you just tell me, am I doing a good job? So just even feedback. Sometimes people don't get feedback till their annual performance review. And they've gone a whole year not knowing whether they were doing a job well or doing it wrong. So just for your staff's mental health and well-being, talk to them. And these are the types of conversations that make such a difference to how long your staff want to stay with you, how much job satisfaction they've got, and how much output you get from them. One of the things, I had a new member of staff start with me, and she laughed at me when she was going home, and I said, "Oh, thank you so much for all your help today." And she just laughed at me. I said, "Why are you laughing?" And she said, "I've never been thanked in any of my jobs before." And then she said, you thank all the staff every single day for doing our jobs. Yeah. And for me, it's a basic, but when she brought it to my attention, I thought, I can't believe that happens in organisations.
And it doesn't matter what band you are, or what role you play, you are part of the team. And I think that's what people want to see, is that as a manager, you want people to feel they've all got a role on that team. And you can only do that when you value them.
I think that's really powerful stuff. And that's just, it's taking care of people as people, isn't it? Rather than just employees or people who have a certain role to play. You're seeing them as a human being in there. So that's really great. So I would like to make our listeners aware of some well-being resources that we as a charity can offer. We do have workshops that managers can run with their teams. These cover the science behind well-being, time management, and stress management and building resilience, amongst others. So please do have a look at our website, because we have workshops that can really benefit teams. We also have a new training that's currently in development, which is to help leaders to promote well-being practices and good mental health in their teams. And that will be launching next year for managers and leaders in pharmacy. So you both have been really wonderful guests today. I've loved hearing what you have to say. And unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. But huge thanks to Jat and Sukhy for their time. This has been a really interesting discussion with some great suggestions and tips. Personally, I feel like it was a really human discussion, about the importance of meeting other people where they are and with compassion. And so We hope that this bite-sized chat has stimulated some thoughts and ideas for you to try out with your teams, and that you'll continue this conversation with colleagues in your places of work, and share any thoughts, learnings, and suggestions you may have with us too. So thanks for tuning in and for making time for well-being.